Welcome to VolleyTalk alongside Mears Nassen. I'm Elliot Skelly. Joining us today, the head coach of the Division II state champion, Archbishop McNicholas Rockets, Julie Mulvey, and second team all-region middle hitter, and now graduate of McNick Volleyball, Bryce Dillard. Guys, how you doing?
I'm good.
Great.
How are you?
Thanks for asking.
Good to hear. So last year, Coach, you took a team that wasn't necessarily expected to do a whole lot to a state tournament appearance with a lot of upsets in that playoff run along the way. Knowing that you could do that with such a young squad, did that create a sense that this year was the year to make a run to the championship?
Um, Absolutely. I mean, we knew with them coming in, just they were just going to get better and better as they went along. Last year, the league was kind of anybody's league, and you saw that in the playoffs from, Fenwick going down and us taking Baden. It was a very even keeled league, and we happened to be on our game for the tournament run, and it was an awesome preview of this year.
Yeah, and in that same idea, Bryce, you're the lone senior heading into this season, knowing this team can make something happen. Did that kind of change your, the feeling of your club season or off season?
Yeah, I felt like having been in the state tournament last year and then knowing that the expectation for us this year was to be back and hopefully win a state championship. I feel like going to club, I know for myself that I worked extra hard during club so that we could make this happen. And seeing Gavin and Kevin and Carson and Jay all in club practice because we all play for the same club. They all worked really hard. So yeah, I think that really changed the mindset for everybody on the team.
Coach, looking at your schedule, you started off the year with a few huge GCL co-ed wins. Then you had a try against Hudson and St. Charles. You took down the Region 2 champs, but fell in 4 sets to St. Charles, and at the time knocking you out of our Division 2 rankings in the #1 spot. What was your experience at that matchup?
Yeah, thanks for that, by the way. No, we knew we had a target on our back the whole time. I'm sure St. Charles was well prepared for our game on April 6th, and we just didn't play our best. We didn't, put our 7 or 8 best out there. We, went over how that game went and how many points they earned and how many points we handed them. And we just handed them way too many points to take a match from a skilled team like that. When you go up against somebody who's prepared for you, if you are handing them points and you're not on your A game, then that's what happens. That's exactly what happened in that first match.
It was kind of a similar story after that. You had a few more great competitive GCL code wins. You had a great win over rival Roger Bacon in the region. And then you had the GCL Challenge. You fell to the Cardinals again. Now, Bryce, what was the feeling among the guys as to why the St. Charles team was just so tough to beat in the regular season?
I feel like losing to them the first time had a little bit of an impact, but I feel like we really just gave away points that we couldn't give away a lot, especially at the serving line. Um, and then other than that, I mean, just cleaning up our game, which didn't really happen there. Um, St. Charles was the first game of the GCL Challenge, which having to get up early and travel. I mean, for some of those guys, it's not what they do. For the club kids, it's fairly common, so that wasn't too bad. But yeah, we just didn't clean up the errors like we needed to in those, and we gave them a lot of free points.
Now looking at the rest of the schedule, you had a couple competitive losses to Moeller and St. X, but the big story was going 10-0 in a very competitive GCL co-ed league. And that too, I was looking back at the records on that site going back to 2014. It was McNick's first time winning in that decade span. Coach, how much did it mean to finally find success in that group?
And then GCL. It was awesome. I mean, we have been up and down, and we've always been a pretty competitive league. You just never know if Bain's going to step up or Fenwick's stepping up. Now that Roger Bacon stepped out of it a couple years ago, CJ had their time where they were awesome, and Dayton Carroll was phenomenal a year or so ago. So it is always a really competitive league, and we kind of keep an eye on who's graduating and who's walking away, but honestly don't have a huge guess as to who's going to dominate that league from year to year. From year to year, we just have to play them and see what's going on, and obviously alter and winning what they have 6-7 titles under Craig. He's just a phenomenal coach, and they have had some rough years. You just honestly don't know, and at any time one of them could rise back up, and this was just our league that we got to rise up in and not lose any matches this league. That was awesome.
Well, then you get into your playoff run. You're the 1 seed in Region 8, and you start off, you sweep Mount Healthy, you sweep Middletown Christian, you sweep Chaminade-Julienne, relatively, low sweat. Then you get to the regional final against league rival Bishop Fenwick in an absolute battle of a 5-set win. Bryce, talk me through that match.
Yeah, we came out a little bit slow, which we have a problem with, but I feel like we really carried energy off some runs in the first set once we got over the hump at the beginning. Going to 5, I mean, we were really good at winning in 5, thanks to some drills that Julie has us run, 15 minutes of fun. But yeah, I feel like we just found those runs and we just took that energy from those and carried it all the way to the end.
Well, I got to hear, what's 15 minutes of fun?
15 minutes of fun is your starters versus whoever is left in practice, and the team of non-starters serves at you, and you play it out. And if the team of starters makes an error, you get on the sideline and you run 15 lines in 45 seconds until you're done, and the clock stops every time you run.
Oh,
That's right. Now looking over to the state tournament, you went into the first game, the semifinals against second-year program Independence, and you knew that it was likely going to be a win because the Blue Devils are still building their program. But Coach, what was the mindset? What did you tell your team before that day?
And looking at them and knowing they were only a second, holy cow, that's impressive to be able to do that. I mean, we've had rebuilding years, but that was an actual starting, and for them to be able to do that, that is fantastic. I will say that, as we had that whole week to prepare for Independence in St. Charles, we had gotten some video of Independence, and nothing against how the regions were divided, but the region that they came from, they were a 5 seed in that region, and the region wasn't super tough to begin with. So when we got those films, we were kind of shying away from showing a whole thing to the boys because we didn't want to overinflate their confidence. And we just focused on, listen, if we prepare to take St. Charles and we prepare for them if we make our serve aggressive and keep our offense under control, put our middles in the offense as much as we can, well, then that will come with the win over Independence as well, instead of, focusing on them as separate entities. We kind of just prepared for the whole weekend instead.
Absolutely. And just building off on that too, you go to the state championship match, your first time there since 2008 as a program, which precedes your coaching tenure, and it's against St. Charles again. So what adjustments did you make in preparation for that third match against the Cardinals?
We studied them. We knew their blood type, what they were going to have for breakfast, and what color socks they enjoy wearing. And we just like player for player, studied what they were going to do per rotation. We took a look at who we expected them to go to on their passive serve receive, who we expected them to go to when they were out of system, and making sure that we were just prepared for whatever kind of offense they threw over the net at us. And our assistant coaches did a phenomenal job of, going over films and getting stats on them so that we just sat and studied them. And you can only anticipate so much of what's going to happen, but looking at who they go to when they're in trouble and looking at who they go to when they're in system, it makes a pretty big difference. And knowing that we could make our middles part of our offense, because yeah, they had decent middles, but they weren't going to be middles that completely shut down Bryce and Jay, and they didn't. And making them a part of our offense, that was key. It was key to have, 6 different hitters.
We know the Cardinals came out hot early on. They ended up taking set 1 and set 3, but the one play that looked unstoppable for them in that first few sets, at least, was the 31. Now, Coach, you can chime in too a little bit after this, but Bryce, what did it look like on your end, just trying to put a stop to that?
Yeah, no, it definitely was a challenge because they have all 3 options in the front row. State Player of the Year on the right side. Kind of you got to give him respect, so you don't really want to cheat on the 31. So you kind of got to find a little bit of an in between, stay in between the 31 and going to the right side. But yeah, I thought as the game went on and we shut down the right side a little bit more, it was easier to just feel like it was going to go outside or to the 31. And if it's going to the outside or the 31, they ran their 31 so far out that you were just there for both of them. So, yeah.
Well, Bryce, after a dominant 4th set win, you started fast in the set 5, came out with the program's first state championship. You had the match-winning kill.
A lot of cards right here. Kaser, Gundrum, Dillard, off the block, onto the floor. And the state champions in 2024 in Division II are the Rockets of Archbishop McNick's.
How incredible was that experience?
It was honestly really surreal for everybody. We've all worked really hard for it. I know, quite literally blood, sweat, and tears on our court at home for that. So that it was great to see all of the hard work come to fruition there in the end. But yeah, I mean, I thought in the 5th set we did a really good job coming out to a quick start, getting up with a 5-point lead, 7-2 or something like that. And from there we just didn't let them close that gap, and we just traded points and got the job done.
Well, I mean, Coach, with Bryce being your only senior, the only player you're losing, the future is definitely bright. You got to be feeling pretty good about making another run. What's your message to your returners as you head into this offseason?
Well, first of all, making them realize that Bryce was a huge part of us. Losing him, whether he's 1 or 4, losing him is a huge loss to the Rockets. And his leadership and his energy, unbelievable energy for what he has done for our Rocket volleyball team, is just absolutely commendable. So thank you, Bryce. But these boys, the guys that are returning, the majority of them have been playing grade school together since 4th grade. They all went to grade school together. They now play club together. So they know exactly what needs to be done. They know each other so very well. They know if somebody's having an off game, and they are just going to be, hopefully be a well-oiled machine by the time the next season rolls around. They're all putting in the time in the off season, playing for their different clubs, and hopefully some of the changes we made, moving Jay over to the middle, he's not a middling club, hopefully maybe his club might let him do that every once in a while. That was a huge switch for us, but we now have these guys to the point that they are playing what they're supposed to be playing, and another 6-7 months of practice before the season rolls around again, it's only going to make them stronger.
Well, hey, congratulations on an incredible season, first state championship in program history. That's awesome. Bryce, I know you're playing at Rockhurst University, so good luck with that. Coach, good luck with the season, and thanks for coming on, guys.
Thank you guys so much.
All right, that was Julie Mulvey and Bryce Dillard from McNick. Joining us now, the head coach of the Division I state champion St. Xavier Bombers, Bill Ferris. Coach, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Doing pretty good. Well, you started off this year on a really hot win streak. You had big wins over Moeller, Elder, Liberty, Brecksville, and then had a weekend tri-match with St. Ignatius and Mount Vernon, which is about where we were when we interviewed you in the regular season. Now, St. Ignatius came into that weekend 10-0, no sets dropped, and what would turn out to be a preview of the state championship match. Can you talk about your experience playing them in the regular season?
Yeah, like you said, up in Mount Vernon on a Saturday morning. That was the first time I had encountered Jack, I think, as their outside hitter. He was one that opened my eyes a little bit They definitely brought a lot of energy, and we know from years past that they always do a good job of, kind of executing their game plan. I think they're one of the better teams in the state at coming up with a plan and having all their guys on board to execute.
So looking after that weekend, you had a big win in 4 sets against Moeller, which put you in a good position to win the GCL South. But earlier that night, your JV team lost, which is significant because it was the first time in several years, a couple of years at least, that your JV team had suffered a loss and playing the best competition year in, year out. What does it say about the depth of this program and especially the coaching at that level?
Yeah, I really think that it's a great tribute to the coaches and like I talked about the other day, the 4-year plan of getting these guys ready for varsity. We do not take any of that for granted. We expect good competition through the GCL. We expect good competition through our tournaments that we get into, and we've been good and able to win most all of those. We had one loss this year, but nevertheless, we think it's part of the process and part of the plan and part of the program to keep them competing and getting better and getting ready for varsity.
Absolutely. Well, right after that, Moeller, the very next morning, you turned around and you went to tackle the Centerville Elite Eight tournament, where you swept Centerville, you beat Moeller again in 3 sets, and then you suffered your only loss on the season to the Old Tangent Liberty Patriots in the finals. Can you talk about your team's performance on that Saturday?
Yeah, definitely. That's a real test for guys after, an emotional Friday night against Moeller. That was also our alumni nights. We had a whole bunch of guys back, part of the festivities. Like I said, emotional, and then we turn around for an early morning up in Centerville, play them at their home site, play Moeller again, and then, by that time of the season, both us and Liberty were trending towards the top, right? The likely state final matchup until we found out how the bracket worked out. We didn't go up there fully healthy, but part of our mindset when we go up there is get through this weekend healthy, get through that Centerville Elite without guys getting, injuries because they're tired or worn out or overuse or anything. So it was a good opportunity for us to get some of our other bench players into the game. We line up against Liberty in that final there with who's obviously probably the second deepest team to us. I don't think we saw 2 better middles. I know Whiteside's one of the best outsides that we've seen. I thought their libero was one of the better liberos we saw, and their setter did a great job of getting everybody involved. So we go into that game knowing we're matching depth for depth, and we were down Joe Taggart, who was one of our outside hitters. Has the potential to play all 6 positions. Doesn't always, just depends on how we as coaches feel it needs to go. But it's certainly that caliber of player. I thought we played pretty tight, not tight, close with Liberty. That whole finals, it was our 4th match in about 20 hours, and we were down Taggart. So although we took a loss there, I didn't feel, hopeless by any means.
Well, hey, after that loss, you didn't drop a set for the rest of the regular season. You also won your 2nd straight outright GCL South title, going 6-0 this year. That's the first time that any team has done that in 10 years. How significant is that accomplishment to you, especially knowing how that conference and group in general can be so competitive?
Yeah, no, we really gear up in the regular season for our Friday night GCL matches. We know the competition's great. We know the rivalries are great. The kids play, club together most of the year. Many of them went to grade school with some of these kids. So it's a fun rivalry atmosphere, both from the school's perspective and from the individual player's perspective. So, I would say in the regular season, that's where our focus is on those GCL games. That's the first championship, or the first title we can win is our league championship. So that's sort of what we're thinking about as we go into there. And it's a pretty good feeling when you've got that kind of team like we had this year, and we can kind of take care of business in the league like we did. We think that puts us in a good spot for the postseason almost every single year.
Well, your playoff run started off with sweeps of Hamilton and Milford, but you countered longtime GCL rival Elder in the regional semifinals, which saw you have a decisive set 1 win, 25-7. I mean, that had to have been pretty cool. What was it like to have such a dominant win over a storied opponent like the Panthers?
Yeah, when we play these teams in the GCL as frequently as we do, and when we know the players and the coaches as well as we do, there's no no ability to look past them or think, oh, well, we beat them once or we beat them twice. We've clearly got them figured out. They're not going to try. They know they're going to lose. We know we're going to win. It doesn't work that way. So we go into those matches hoping to reassert, our position. We felt like we were the best team in Cincinnati. We had proven ourselves as the best team in the GCL, but that doesn't matter come the tournament time. And we wanted to get out there and kind of remind ourselves, show Elders players like we're still a notch above you guys this year. Partially because, not partially, I would say primarily because of the depth that we bring, the seniors that we've got. So it was a pretty comforting feeling. I was a little, I don't want to say nervous. I don't really get nervous or anxious, but certainly paying attention to what could happen in that game if we did not come out hitting on all cylinders.
Now, after that game, you're off to the regional finals against Moeller, who you were 3-0 against on the year, but still, you have to remember what happened the past few years, right? 5-set loss in 2022, 5-set loss in 2023. How special was it to finally break through and get back to the state tournament?
Yeah, it was a great feeling. The guys had been focused on not just that match, but getting past that match. We weren't gearing up just to be competitive again and see what happens. We were gearing up to win that regional final matchup. We expected it to be Moeller again. It turned out to be Moeller again. And then sort of the same thing I was just saying about playing that rematch with Elder in the tournament. You're going to get their best. You're going to get their most energetic effort. And I think Moeller might have had a mental edge going into that game. And I think our guys did a great job of turning that around, turning it into a mental edge for ourselves and just staying focused and competing and winning all the way through 0.75 of that one.
Yeah, and I think it was something people kind of forgot about, but Moeller was 3-time defending state champion going into that match. Hadn't lost a playoff match in a long time. So there was a lot of significance there, and you guys were able to get that done. Back at state, then you got a rubber match against Olentangy Liberty. Your only loss on the season. I mean, it was you guys 1-2 all year long. It was a match that I personally predicted to be the highest level boys volleyball match in history of Ohio. And then I took some heat for that after this because Liberty was fairly dominant in set one. They led 24-14. You guys had a late run, but then after that, it was some of the highest level volleyball I've ever seen. I mean, you guys killed them, and culminating in a 25-10 set 4 win to advance the state championship.
Whiteside to serve.
Beautiful pass.
And there it is. The point off the arm of Joe Taggart gives St. X 25.
Can you speak to kind of the thoughts beforehand and the actual match against Liberty?
Yeah, definitely. We were gearing up for that to be the most competitive match we would have of the season. Like I said, we knew their depth. We knew our depth. We knew it came down to execution, and it was going to be execution by really, really high level players. Both of their middles, both of our middles, their outsides, both of our outsides. In a game like that, you can't really predict what's going to win, but we felt good going in that if we could serve well enough to keep them a little bit off balance, just kind of get a few balls to Caden that maybe weren't as in system as he can take full advantage of. And then the flip side, if we can give Aiden Berkemeyer a ball to set that he can get to any of our hitting options, our serve receive was key there. And I thought if we could serve well enough to knock them out of system, keep our own offense in system or close enough for Aiden to put us all the way back in system, I felt like we should have been able to take care of business, but I would have never predicted the scores or, like you said, kind of the way we were able to exploit a handful of the points that we did.
So after that incredible win, it was time for the state championship. You faced off against a good Ignatius team, and it felt like there was never a doubt on who would walk away as the champion as the match got going. You took set one, 25-10, had a large lead for most of the third. Still, Ignatius battled. They closed late in the set. How did your guys battle through to get over Ignatius and get your fourth state championship as a program?
Yeah, I think what you said about the way we started that game was a good start for us. We had kind of developed our routine through the playoffs where we'd get together in the morning at St. X, do a little bit of serving and passing. Guys would go eat, go up to the gym, and then compete. I think that routine was really nice for us. We had probably put a little bit more of our scouting efforts into Liberty going into that weekend, just because we didn't know if it would be Darby or Ignatius coming out. And we had seen both Darby and Ignatius there. So we talked a little bit about what we needed to do against Ignatius. And then I think once we got out in that game one and really kind of felt like we were still playing the way we were playing on Saturday, it did bring a level of comfort and some confidence to the guys and me for sure. As we rolled through that last match.
McGuire serves middle back. Quick one. That's off Seamus Walsh. It goes to the ground, and that will do it. The state champions in the OHSAA Division I boys volleyball are the Bombers from St. Xavier High School.
Well, you had plenty of guys contribute to your success this year. Obviously, the Berkmeyer brothers, Brady Jones, Joe Byram, Joe Taggart, you talked about, he played like a seasoned senior, even though he was just a sophomore.
Good reception by Berkmeyer in the back. And just an amazing swing, Joe Taggart.
But the fan favorite seemed to be one of your captains, Charlie Bender.
Yeah, they brought Andrew Berkmeyer into the 3-zone, kind of a 30-32 set, and Broby was no match blocking Berkmeyer.
Charlie Bender enters the match for the first time for St. X.
Can you speak to how his leadership helped the team get the job done this year?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I tell the guys all the time, like every single person is on that team for a reason. It doesn't matter if you play every point or none of the points, you're on that team for a reason because you belong there. You deserve to be there. And Charlie Bender is one of those guys who's on this team because his skills are good enough to be on this team, but his personality, his attitude, and his contributions, like through practice and in any game that I want to put him into, are at the level that we need it to be on the varsity team at St. X. He's a great kid around the school, super smart, great athlete, funny, fun to be around, and the guys love him, like you heard the fans chanting at state.
That's awesome. Well, this year sparked some conversations around the state as to where this team falls within the greatest teams of all time in Ohio boys volleyball. I mean, you finished the season ranked second nationally according to Max Preps, which is something that has not been done before. Pretty incredible. With the caveat that obviously you will have some bias. What's your opinion on this topic?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to rank teams across, generations, right? We had Stephen Kehoe come through our program 20 years ago, who goes on to play at Ohio State, gets most outstanding player in the NCAA championship, plays professionally overseas. Any team with him on it is going to be a great team. We've had teams that fell short in the past couple years or 10 years ago that were great competitive teams. I think finishing this one off with the tournament run like we did against a team like Liberty and then Ignatius, and then just look around our roster, this has to be one of the deepest teams that's played in, certainly for me at St. X, just depth-wise. And probably the way we took care of business is worthy of being considered one of the best teams that Ohio's produced. Brady was named honorable mention. Like, give me a break.
Yeah, we talked about that. That was pretty bad.
Quick one in the middle, and that's a huge hit. Goodness gracious. You talked about him. That was Brady Jones.
I think, obviously, Aiden, proved himself to be caliber of player of the year type player. He got it for the region and was just behind Caden in the state. I think Brady has player of the year capabilities and should have been considered higher than honorable mention. And to be honest with you, someone like Joe Taggart as a sophomore, if he's not in the player of the year talk before he graduates, I'll be pretty surprised. And I know there's some good sophomores around the state and he's got more to develop, but if you're going into a high school season with 3 kids that are that caliber of player, plus Andrew Berkmeyer plays all 6, Noah Boyette, who's playing in college next year, Charlie Bender, our guys on the bench that pressed us in practice every day. It's going to be hard to say. I will be hard pressed to have a better team than this one. Whether this one was the best or not, I'm not sure. I'll be hard pressed to have a better team.
Regardless, the fact that we're talking about it means you're doing something right. So, incredible season, man. I mean, there are a lot of opinions out there. I'm sure you're not completely deaf to, but the fact that you can get it done and win the state championship, it's awesome. And thanks to St. X and you guys, one of our biggest supporters on social media this year. So we really appreciate that, and thanks to you for coming on.
Well, as you know, I've got great people around me, including these great players this year. So I'm just happy to be along for the ride. I appreciate what you guys are doing for volleyball, and thanks for having me back.
All right, man, that'll do it. Another year of Ohio VolleyTalk in the books. It really flies, but it was cool. I think we came into this year, we learned a lot last year and kind of hit the ground running. So that was awesome. It's great working with you again. I don't know, all the stuff that you do, it's like never have to ask you to do anything. You always are motivated and do a great job. And I don't know, there are many other people that I could do this with. So it's been a great year.
Yeah, I appreciate it too, Ellie. And you put in a lot of work getting all these coaches brought on, making the guest list, doing so many things around the sport, around this show in general. And I just want to say thank you to the fans. You guys have grown over the years, and it's definitely showing. We talked to a lot of you guys at state last weekend. We appreciate all the support that you guys have. And I think I always settle around this sentiment when I think about Ohio VolleyTalk. For both of us, high school is an important time in a lot of our lives and in our lives in general, even looking back at it as we are in college. And the thing about high school is it's kind of like the glory days. And for both of us, the glory days meant being around this sport. And I know that's the case for a lot of you guys as well. So we're just here to make the glory days better. So all the content we put out, all the fan interactions, it's all for you guys. We don't have this without all the support we get year in, year out. So thank you.
Yeah, I always kind of in my mindset that, like, if we're just making a couple more people a little bit more excited about boys volleyball, then we're doing good work. This is all worth it. So another great year. For one last time this season, this has been Ohio VolleyTalk. We will catch you next season.